Hello, Hammonton Early Childhood Education Center. My name is Dan Tricarico, and I wrote a book called The Zen Teacher, Creating Focus, Simplicity, and Tranquility in the Classroom. And it's my understanding that you've read this book. So first of all, I want to say thank you very much for reading it. I really appreciate it, and I hope it helped you with some of the things that you're trying to achieve in terms of lower stress and improved self-care. I came here to talk to you today about a couple self-care strategies, but also my understanding is that you're going to be looking into some decluttering, some creating space kinds of ideas. So I'm going to share some thoughts about that as well. First of all, I want to thank Ashley Null for inviting me to do this video for you and for making this happen. So thank you, Ashley. And I hope I'm saying your last name right, but thank you for making this happen. The first idea I want to share with you is the idea of permission. As teachers, we are givers. We give, and give, and give, and give. And I always say, you've heard that old expression, you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, teachers are such givers. Not only will they pour from an empty cup, if somebody needs the cup, they'll give the cup over as well. And my job is to help you get back the cup and maybe fill it up with a little something as well. And hopefully that little something will be in the form of self-care. So the first idea is to share with you the concept of what I call intentional and radical self-care. And there are two words here I want to break down. First of all is the idea of radical self-care. And I stole that idea from an incredible writer named Anne Lamott, which some of you may have heard of. She's one of my favorites and writes about self-care and faith and has an amazing sense of humor. And she really talked about how we really need to give ourselves permission for radical self-care. Now, we know the importance of permission because we're teachers, and we know if you have a field trip that you need to have written permission slips from the parents because it allows the students to do something, right? It gives them permission. But what happens is as we grow up, we forget that now that we're old, we're the ones who give us permission. Nobody else is going to give us permission but us. So we need to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. So that's a little radical. Also, it's a little radical that people won't understand what you're doing when you stop to take care of ourselves. In this go, go, go 21st century world, when we see somebody stopping to take care of themselves, we're like, what is happening? I can't believe that. That's crazy. Why did they get to do that? But the truth of it is, you're the only one who can make that happen. Nobody's going to come up to you and say, you know what, you look kind of tired. Maybe you could use a nap. That's just not going to happen, right? So you have to make that choice for yourself. So that's kind of the radical part, that you're going to ruffle some feathers. People are going to look at you a little funny, and you have to learn to kind of be okay with that because it's different than the norm. And that's what radical means. The other part is intentional. Intentional means it's on purpose and it's by choice. You need to decide, hey, this is part of my value system now. This is something that's important to me, and so I'm going to do it. You can't expect it to happen willy-nilly. You can't expect it to happen serendipitously or randomly. It's just not going to happen. Maybe sometimes, but think about how much more often it will happen if we're intentional and we make a choice about it. So first of all, think about the idea of permission. I'm going to give myself permission and allow myself the grace and have it be part of my value system to give myself some self-care and reduce my stress. And second of all, the radical part, that it's okay if it's not what everybody else is doing. Okay. The third idea actually is I want to talk about something I call the 5 S's. And the 5 S's are stillness, silence, subtraction, space, and slowing down. All of those are important. All of those are things we don't focus on in 2019. But because of what I was told that you're especially going to be focusing on, that you're going to have some time later in the day to work in your classrooms. So I thought we would talk a little bit about the idea of space. Excuse me. So again, first of all, one thing to keep in mind in terms of space, and basically we're talking about decluttering, which is all the rage now because of Marie Kondo and her magic of joyful tidying up, or whatever that book was called. And so the first thing is you want to look at your students and say, do you give me joy? No, I'm kidding. That's just a joke. Don't do that. I'm just kidding. You don't want to say that. But you can look at the things in your classroom and say, do I need them? Do I want them? Do they give me joy? But not the people. So that's one approach, and that's her approach, and it's been very successful. But I think, again, going back to intention, the choice is very important. Nobody else is in charge of your space. Nobody else has permission to tell you what to do in your space but you. So you need to look at the old files. You need to look at the old books. You need to look at the old art supplies and the craft supplies and say, am I really going to use these? And I always go by the old 6-month rule or year rule. You can make it whatever time you want. If I haven't used it in 6 months, I'm probably not going to. If I haven't used it in a year, I'm probably not going to. And then you can get rid of it. Have I sometimes said, oh, if only I had that thing that I threw out? Yeah, but you know what? I survive. And I either recreate it or I go, I'm going to change it. But I have the peace of mind and the lower stress of just having a more basic space. So choosing to be able to create space for yourself is definitely something you want to keep in mind. The other thing is be intentional about where do you want to create the space? Am I going to clean off a tabletop? Am I going to clean out a closet? Am I going to clean out a bookcase? And maybe it's overwhelming to do a whole classroom at once. So start small and pick just 1 or 2 little areas that you can work on. I did that just this week in my classroom. I have been in my classroom, which you see around me. Today was just a regular school day, and I'm doing the video after school. But this past week, I had a little bit of time. So on one day, I picked a cupboard to clean out, and it was a mess. And it just kind of, as the kids were working, I just started pulling things out of the cupboard and spread it on the ground. And I said, I was intentional about, do I need this? And if I didn't need it, and it was some of the things I'd had for a decade or 2 decades. I've been in this classroom 26 years. So you can imagine that I've amassed some flotsam and jetsam that I don't need, right? And so I looked at it and I said, do I need this? Grade books from a couple years ago. Some of those kids are in college now. Time to throw them away. So I threw them away. Things like that. But I just took one cupboard. I just picked that one cupboard. The next day, I had a little more time. I picked a little coat closet type coat rack closet that we have. And I took all, my kids were teasing me because I took out huge stacks of CDs I'm into classic rock. I love classic rock. And they just laughed at me and they held up their phones and they said, why don't you just put it on this? Speaking of decluttering. And I laughed and I said, well, I do that too, but I have these CDs because I still have a little boombox here in the classroom. So I straightened all that up and I cleaned all that up. And there were things in there, cables. We're teachers and we live in a technology-laden world. All these cables that I don't even know what they go to. I used to feel really bad about throwing them away because then what if I need that piece of technology and I can't find it and I can't get it charged up again because I threw out the cord? I don't worry about it anymore. I need the space, so I'm going to throw it out. And then if I need a cord, I'll get another cord, right? But the space is what's important. Here are some of the benefits that I absolutely believe come to you when you give yourself permission to have space and to declutter. And I don't know how woo-woo you are, and I'm not super woo-woo, but as a former drama major, there's a little bit of that in me. And I thoroughly believe that if you give yourself space, if you get rid of the clutter, if you create that opening, that the universe, first of all, is going to reward that by understanding that you've made room for new, better stuff to come into your life. I absolutely believe that. You will have the room for the new, better stuff to come into your life. The other thing that is really excellent is you just feel like you have a lighter and more expansive spirit. You just feel like there's less oppression, less suppression. Just you don't feel quite so boxed in. There's more breathing room, there's more elbow room. It really helps your mental health. It really helps your stress level. So definitely when you go back to your classrooms today, look at the things in your classrooms. Pick a place, a countertop, a tabletop, a bookcase, a closet, something like that, and focus on that and say, I'm just going to pick this one space today and I'm going to make it neat and open up that space so that better things can come into my life. So give yourself permission to take care of yourself. Think about the difference, not the difference, but think about the connection between intentional and radical self-care. Think about the 5 S's, which are stillness, silence, subtraction, space, and slowing down. And then in terms of the space that you're going to create in your classroom, be intentional, make it a choice. think about how it's going to create room for the universe to give you more things and how it's going to lower your stress. Now, if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. You can find me on Twitter at the Zen Teacher. You can find me on, there's a Facebook page, The Zen Teacher. There is a Facebook group with almost 1,000 teachers from all over the world. Also, just search in the Facebook group for The Zen Teacher. Are you sensing a theme here? I now am also experimenting with Instagram at Zen Teacher. There's no the there. I guess that was already taken. Also, you can reach me through email at teachingzen@gmail.com. So I just want you to know that whatever you're doing, you're enough. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you for everything that you're doing for each other and the students in your classes. You are making an impact in the world that is absolutely incalculable, and we are very, very grateful for that. We appreciate it very much, and we need you. So take care of yourself, and hopefully I'll talk to you soon, and I hope things go well. Take care. Bye-bye.